Biology is the study of living things. For generations, biologists learned about the world simply by making observations with the naked eye, or with a simple light microscope. As the science expanded, however, scientists began to ask questions that they couldn't answer through direct observation. How does an organism convert food into muscle and bone? How do plants convert water and sunlight into all the things that cells need to live, grow, and reproduce? And how is the basic information of life passed from one generation to the next? The answers to these questions go beyond the field of biology alone. All of life's processes involve chemical reactions, the combining, exchanging, and breaking apart of the atoms and molecules of a few substances. To fully understand biology, you must understand and apply some basic chemistry as well. All matter, whether it is living or not, is made up of atoms. All atoms, in turn, are comprised of just three kinds of particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons are found in the atomic nucleus. Electrons are found outside the nucleus. Something that is made up of just one kind of atom is called an element. The number of protons in the nucleus of the atom determines what the element is. For example, any atom with a total of 6 protons is carbon. We say that the atomic number of carbon is 6. Atoms with different numbers of protons are different elements. Atoms with only 2 protons are helium. Iron atoms have 26 protons. Copper has 29. Altogether, there are 92 different elements that occur naturally. Of these, fewer than 30 are biologically important. 6 are so important that they demand special attention from biologists. They are hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Within the atom, the subatomic particles differ from each other in several ways. A chemically important difference is their electrical charge. Protons have a positive electrical charge. Electrons have a negative charge. Neutrons, as their name implies, have no charge. The subatomic particles also differ in mass. Protons and neutrons each have a mass of 1 atomic unit. Electrons are essentially without mass. The number of protons and neutrons added together is the atomic mass of an element. For example, carbon has 6 protons and 6 neutrons, so its atomic mass is 12. Although all atoms of the same element have the same number of protons, they may not all have the same number of neutrons. For example, atoms of hydrogen usually have only 1 proton and no neutrons. But hydrogen can also occur with 1 or even 2 neutrons. Atoms of the same element with different numbers of neutrons are called isotopes of the element. The structure of the atom is difficult to visualize since we're not able to actually see the components of an atom. We do know that most atoms have the same number of electrons as they have protons. This makes them electrically neutral. Many hypotheses have been proposed to explain how electrons are arranged in an atom. It was first thought that electrons orbited the nucleus much as planets do the sun. This is known as the planetary model. It's now thought that electrons move about the nucleus in 3-dimensional regions called energy levels. Electrons closest to the nucleus have less energy. Those farther away have more energy. Each energy level can only hold a certain number of electrons. The first can hold 2, the second 8, and the third 18. When its outer level is filled, an atom is stable. It can't combine with other atoms. Atoms with more than 2 energy levels are stable when they have 8 electrons in the outer level. Only 6 natural elements, like this neon atom, have completely filled outer levels. They are called the rare gases. The atoms of most elements don't have a stable outer level, so they tend to combine with other atoms to form molecules. Atoms can combine or bond in several ways. In some cases, an atom with extra electrons in its outer shell will transfer them to an atom that needs electrons in the outer shell. This changes the electrical charge of the atom from neutral to either positive or negative because the atom no longer has an equal number of protons and electrons. A charged atom is called an ion. In this case, the hydrogen atom has become a positive ion. For certain elements, losing or gaining an electron is a way to have a completely filled outer shell. For example, sodium has 1 electron in its outer level and chlorine has 7. When sodium transfers an electron to chlorine, they both have stable outer levels of 8 electrons. The sodium has become a positive ion and chlorine has become a negative ion. The oppositely charged particles are attracted to each other. They combine in a crystal held together by ionic bonds. The compound is common table salt. Ionic bonds are relatively strong but can break apart in water to give positive and negative ions in solution. Some atoms bond in another way. They share some of their outer electrons with other atoms. This is called a covalent bond, and it is stronger than an ionic bond. A single covalent bond is formed when 2 atoms share an electron pair. By sharing the electrons, both atoms fill the outer shells and the overall charge remains neutral. Atoms can also share 2 or 3 pairs of electrons, forming double or triple covalent bonds. Biologically important elements such as carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen tend to form covalent bonds with each other and with other atoms. Chemical bonds are formed in chemical reactions. A reaction is nothing more than the sharing or transfer of electrons between atoms. There are 3 basic types of reactions. First, 2 elements can combine to form a molecule. For example, 2 atoms of hydrogen can combine with 1 oxygen atom to form water. Second, a molecule may be broken down into 2 or more elements. Water can break apart into the elements hydrogen and oxygen. Finally, 2 or more molecules may simply exchange atoms. If you add hydrochloric acid to sodium hydroxide, the atoms in the molecules realign to form table salt and water. Predicting how a reaction will take place requires keeping track of the number of atoms that go in and the number that come out. They have to be balanced. Chemists write equations to do this. Balancing an equation is a little like making change with money. If you give a cashier a $5 bill and ask for change of 3 bills and the rest in quarters, you certainly wouldn't accept 3 $1 bills and 3 quarters. $3.75 does not equal $5. You expect 3 $1 bills and 8 quarters. In chemistry, you have the same expectation. The molecules that result from a reaction will have the same number of atoms as the molecules that went into the reaction. Consider the breakdown of water into hydrogen and oxygen. We know that 1 molecule of water yields 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. The 2 atoms of hydrogen bond to form a single molecule. However, a molecule of oxygen normally has 2 atoms also. To balance this equation, we need to start with 2 molecules of water. That will yield 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen. To think about life on Earth, you have to think about water. It's the most abundant molecule in living things and covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface. Sometimes water molecules separate or dissociate into electrically positive hydrogen ions and negative hydroxide ions. Depending on the relative proportions of these ions, a water solution will be either an acid or a base. The degree to which it's acidic or basic has a major impact on life processes. A pH scale calibrated from 1 to 14 is used to describe how acidic or basic a solution is. In pure water, the number of hydrogen ions always equals the number of hydroxide ions. This neutral amount is given a value of 7. Any solution with a higher proportion of hydrogen ions is acidic and falls below 7 on the pH scale. A solution with a higher concentration of hydroxide ions is basic and has a pH higher than 7. While chemists deal with solutions with a wide range of pH, the majority of biological reactions take place within a very narrow pH range. For example, the liquid in the interior of most cells is maintained at a pH of about 6.8. The pH of blood is between 7.2 and 7.4. This is important since blood is able to carry its maximum amount of oxygen at a higher pH. So far,